Heidi ho, everyone, and welcome once again to TT. Oh, it's not TTR anymore. It's actually called Learn to Trade Live and Free, which is exactly what it is. If, of course, you are planning on doing such a thing, the way we trade the markets, that is Ash and myself, then that's why we called it exactly that. Welcome aboard, guys. It's great to have you here. It's, of course, a very, very big day in Australia. And I know most of you are thinking RBA statements, right? And interest rate announcements or cash rate announcements. No, got it wrong. Think again.
Can you hear me now, mate?
G'day, Ash.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. I'm there. I mean, how are we doing?
Mate, I'm going well. And I've just posed the question. Did you hear the question?
No. What was the question?
The question was, what's the biggest thing that happens in Australia today?
Oh, is it Australia Day?
No, you.
The biggest thing is it.
Now what happens every first Tuesday of the month, right?
Every first Tuesday of the month in Australia.
Yeah.
Interest rates?
Yeah, low. Thank you.
Oh.
But that's not the biggest thing that happened today, right?
It's not.
No.
Oh, what's happened
race.
today? Divorce. Oh, the Melbourne Cup.
Hello, I got him. Yes, the Melbourne Cup, of course.
Oh, that's controversial, that one.
Well, it is at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
The poor horse who won it and 23 others, I assume 24 started. That's the normal. G'day, Lewis. How you doing, buddy? They're all headed to the knackery if you listen to the protesters. And look, I'm on their side, I've got to say. I started my career as a financial person in the racing game because my father was a bookmaker, so it was forced on me basically. But I'm kind of on the horses side these days, and
there was a gig that Taylor Swift was meant to do, and she got a huge kickback from her fan base, and I think she's eventually turned it down.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, she was due to sing at the Melbourne Cup, but yeah, she's turned it down. Just very quickly, mate, before we go into Melbourne Cup,
Yes.
The FTSE's about to open in about 2 minutes.
Mate, let's go to you then. You've got something to look at, have you?
Well, yes, I've got to say, I think this week may well be off for me, in as much that I'm just making sure I'm going to be able to share my screen. It's probably going to be off for me in as much that I'd quite like to kind of get myself equal, get sorted, and then sort of start again. Can you still hear me all right? No, you're out now, are you? Where have you gone? Where have you gone? You've gone, have you? All right, let me just see if I can get Jeff back. And while I'm going to get Jeff back, let's talk about the FTSE 100. Now, Lewis, particularly, you should have had a pretty good trade to the upside on the FTSE. And I think there is some more upside in this market, but that's a fairly aggressive move. Now, not listening to news right at this very moment, I'd quite like to know what is driving this down. It might just be that we've hit a level of specific resistance here, but that's a fairly aggressive move down. With markets that are likely to go higher, I'd want it to stop and consolidate. Now, it still might do that in this area. So let's just have a quick look at what we're looking at. And we got a 15-minute chart here. It might drive right down to this daily pivot, and that is certainly a buy area. It looks like a really good buy area as it goes. We've got support along this level here at 73.40, which is around about 20 pips from where we are now. So it's likely to drift down this morning. I can see it kind of having a bit of a move to the downside, touching this area, and then when it comes down to this area, we probably oh, I kicked him out. We'll have a look at it. We'll have a look at the news and data that's due out this week. There's still some question about the longer term move. I know we've had an S&P reaching all-time highs. We've had Dow Jones at all-time highs, Nasdaq at all-time highs. Decent moves in Asia, and the FTSE did break out, which was pretty good, and there should have been some profit taking. Hey, Chandru, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you in the show. Now,
Hey,
I don't know if you.
Chandru. I'm back,
How you
mate.
doing, dude? You're in. You're in, are you?
Thanks for kicking me out.
I didn't like the cut of your jib.
Fair enough.
So yeah, interesting move, mate. I was long the FTSE, and this isn't to kind of show how amazing I am, but I did actually get the lows, and it was one of those
nice.
that
Good one.
yeah, it was one of those shorts to go long situations, and it just kind of gave me the ability to wait on, and I picked it up right down here. Was it here? Yeah, so right down here on the 2022 level, and I can quite happy to bring up the trade so everybody can witness what it was. But I picked it up right down here, and as we were kind of moving through the barley retreat, I just left it running because I quite liked the look of it, and I came out around about this level yesterday, and it was mainly because, and it wasn't because I don't expect it to go higher. I do expect this to go higher, but the reason I came out here was that I suppose firstly I'd had a really good run to the upside. It was about 150 pips, but the other thing was that I was not able to get in front of my charts and hear if there was going to be any problems in the market. So I thought I'd close it out. Now,
mate, your last 3 trades have been absolute bangers.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I have to say that they have been pretty much on the money for price. And that does happen, but I can't deny that that it is a how can I put it? In a way, it's just one of those things, I'm not going to kind of relish in it too much because otherwise other people will start thinking that that's what I do every time, and that's just not the case. It just so happened that the market behaved.
Forget that bullshit.
Well, it behaved in the way that I thought it would, and today let's see what happens, because I expected to come down and touch this area. And then from there, I'd like to see what happens, because what we could get, there's one or two things that could happen in this area. I suppose one of 3 things in many respects. And it will be this. It will be, number 1, it will be a push down into this area, a hold and a bounce. Number 2, a push down into this area. Well, let's say a hold and a bounce, and then holding along here, which could create the head and shoulders, which pushes us down. So that's what I'm looking out for as a potential. That could happen. Number 2 that could happen would be, let's get rid of that. We could go down and through and just continue the trend to the upside. There's probably around about another 20 or 30 pips up before I'd be really kind of concerned with the move to the upside. It's there's no doubt about it that this area here is embedded and dangerous. Another reason that I closed the trade yesterday, dangerous area here. We are seeing just a little bit of divergence with the RSI and with price moving up. So it's a bit of a dangerous spot, I've got to say. And the last thing that could happen is that it does actually go down, and it goes down from here. Now we need to know why it's moving to the downside so aggressively first, because it could start going through, and then as it comes back up, we're just looking for the downside from that point. So we've kind of got a 3 potential scenario. But the first thing is that I want to see this downside. That's the one thing that I'm a little bit more certain about, is that we come down around about 10 pips from where we are now, and continue to move into this area. So I'm looking out for that. Now, whether I trade it, I don't know, mate, because I've just before I sat down, I thought I might just take this week off. Look at the market, do some other work, but actually not trade, because as you say, I have had a decent run with picking the levels, and picking the price. And when you're in that particular situation, it can get a little bit dangerous, that you don't recalibrate and recognize that you just hit a bit of a purple patch, which, as I say, it does happen. But purple patches, what's the opposite to a purple patch, Jeff?
Excellent question, Ash.
Okay.
I don't think there is one in terms of colour,
Yeah.
but I would say the doldrums is pretty close. Although
Right.
you know
Well,
what the doldrums was or
no.
is? Actually, I think it's an area. Um, it is a point in a sailor's life where there is no wind. I think
Oh, okay.
that's off the top of my head. So it's kind of pertinent, but a purple patch, up to shit, something like that. I can't really think of something that springs to mind, but yeah, look, I've got a job for you, mate. If you really want to have the week off.
What's the job?
I was talking to the guys yesterday in the room, and of course, those of them who are in the room today and yesterday will know that in Bali, we, as always, were subject to some incredible education. And one of those particular pieces of education occurred on Saturday with Ray's COT report
Yes.
and it's getting to it's coming seasonality.
Yeah.
Impressive, really impressive. Couldn't believe the amount of work he's done to come up with that website. Just incredible. But you're now a subscriber, and
Yes.
I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing how that information comes out in your trading, and indeed sharing with us exactly what those numbers mean. So I don't know if you've done any work since you've got back. I know it's been a day, and that's probably been recovering from jet lag,
Well,
as
yeah.
was I.
It's
So it's probably not.
interesting.
Yeah, go.
Well, I was going to say interesting, mate. You know, if I'd had a chance to recover from jet lag, I'd feel all right. But
Oh, right, you
as
still
soon as I,
haven't.
well, no, as soon as I walked in the door, you know, my 3-year-old was obviously very excited. So I spent the day yesterday being dragged around the house, having to play various non-games, basically.
Yes. Well, how good was it that you could actually do that, given that you
Oh,
forfeited your passport to some, I don't know what or who, but it ain't your passport anymore. How good
no.
was that you were able to get home on
Absolutely
time?
brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I do need to get kind of settled in again. And I am actually looking to see. I can't. No, I'm sure that I'm sure that Ray's sent me an email to say where my subscription is. But because I was working on a laptop in Bali, I'm now sat back at the computer at home, and I've got to look for the subscription details on
It's a
my
bit
emails
like that,
because
isn't it? You've got to get
yeah.
rearranged.
Well, this is the thing, you see, and this is another reason why I'm wondering whether, you know, maybe not the week off, but certainly a day off might be wise because I need. There's a few things that that I took from Bali that I'd quite like to just get straight. You know, there was so much information. It was obviously so brilliant that that I now need to migrate everything that I learned into Bali now onto this system. So I've got a little bit of work to do on that. But I think, and I will bring up the seasonality in a moment, and we can have a look at that. But for right now, without that in mind, this is let's just quickly talk about what I am expecting from the FTSE. You know what I'm after, and
Sure,
it's
as
really.
usual, I took you off the subject. Sorry, mate.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. But we will do that, and we will do some work on that as well. But just because I know that that you know we probably actually acquired a few FTSE you know passionate traders I think from Bali. So you know
Mate, I think
let's
Lewis, who's thanking you in the chat box here, is one of them. I think he took that that marvelous trade that not a lot of people did, and I think he's now out of that. So he's a very thankful chappie, and you did a very good job over there with that. So let's continue the education process and obviously the pip making. That's what it's all about.
yes, absolutely. So we do want to make some more pips on it, and you know, there's no two ways about it. The FTSE's broken out, and it's broken out sort of, you know, fairly aggressively. I think coming back into this line might be the actual buy that I'd be a little bit more comfortable with because so far we haven't really tested where we've come from, and I much prefer to see that. So maybe dipping back into this area again and then taking off would be a better course of action. And you can see when we have a look at where this high hit, it has refused this area before. It's a 4-hour chart. It's already refused this area once. But when I bring in the dailies, I just don't think this is high enough just yet. I think that there's probably just maybe not much, but I think that there could be just a little bit more out of it. Now, if I'm wrong, then this area still, it wouldn't look awful, but we're around about 30 pips away from where I'd like to see us start to struggle. So I think that we're gonna try and grab this area one more time. I do want to bring the seasonalities back into play. And if you could remind me of Ray's website, then I could probably just get on with my login details.
The name?
Yes.
Well, everyone, it's no problem. Anyone can go into that website. It's called marketsmadeclear.com.
That's the one. Markets Made Clear. Okay, so we're going to come into that. There we go. So we'll have a look at the seasonality and see what that is telling us. But when I was looking before, I think I was probably after a little bit of a drift to the downside with the FTSE in November. Maybe as something more of a serious dip. Now that can be just a little bit tricky to play if it looks kind of sideways / down, which I think the guys really kind of felt with gold. Everybody's sort of like looking at short gold, but I think from what I gather from them, they were actually playing a fairly short-term move in gold.
Yes, same as you, looking for a long off a short.
Yes, looking for a long off a short, and the short didn't really transpire, and it just goes to show how dangerous that particular trade can be.
Yeah.
There's something similar now. I've got this up now, so let's have a look. So the seasonality on the FTSE, which I'm going to bring you the chart here, is this. Now this is November here. And you can see that it does weaken probably after the first week. It looks fairly choppy, doesn't it? Interesting that we were looking for a decent push towards the end of October into November, the first few days of November, and then we started to come off a little bit. Now everybody remembers that trade that Julian called as well on the S&P, buying was it the third or was it selling on the third?
It was buying on the first and selling on the third or fourth.
Okay, so we're now in the fifth, and the S&P has made all-time high. So I wonder whether after a big push to the upside, we could just start to see a little bit of sideways to downward price action, and then start to come into around about the second week of November. We start to push to the upside again. So I guess just going on seasonality and going on the fact that we have broken out and going on the fact that we are near this level here, which is a head and shoulders pattern, by the way, as well. When we kind of look along here, that's our shoulder line, which is another reason why this level might be might be all that we get, because when we do draw the shoulders, then it does bring this level perfectly into play.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what happens. If we can hold on for the first week or two, then I'll be looking for a further push to the upside. And given the seasonality, that's what that would also suggest, that we would maybe move to the upside and then dip again in December, potentially before a decent run towards the back end of December. Donald Trump is still always in the news, and he's back to his old tricks as he generally is. So that might play a part.
Has he come out of his shell? Has he? We haven't heard from him for a bit.
Well, yeah, but only positive. But interestingly, really, he keeps saying about how China want to make a deal. China need to make a deal, and they want a new president. They want a different president to make the deal with. So I think he's quite annoyed, I think, with China. Now, whether that means that he's going to hold back, because we have to remember this is his presidential year. So what happens, on the presidential year, obviously, is that the man trying to get re-elected is going to do everything that he can to make it look like the economy is doing probably better than it actually is. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether he's going to, play a Donald Trump card, which would be to block deals against China and
how long have you been practicing that one, mate?
What's that, mate?
The Trump card.
Yeah. Well, that could be a case, or will he start to recognise that really to win the next election, he does need to do some sort of deal with China. Now, I'm also just having a look at this as well, as it got a bit quiet actually. This is the chart of the S&P, and this is the presidential election, the presidential cycle. I don't actually quite see the Dow if I could. Don't have the Dow, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at the S&P. Yeah, okay. So the S&P now, these are the election years, post-election, midterm, and the pre-election. So the pre-election leaves us, October, November time, and it also would probably suggest, it's the yellow line here, that there could be just a little bit of weakening before we start to pick up again. So November looks a little bit sticky when we look at this, mate, and I think, given that the small bits of information that we're kind of adding just today, then it's just making me think, I think I would quite like to recalibrate this week and start to digest properly. And then
also, looking at that chart, and we all know, I think anybody who's ever traded anything knows that there's such a thing as a Santa Claus trade.
Yes.
Didn't happen last year.
No.
So that increases this year. My question is this: do we now start to see 100 miles an hour to the high side, preempting Santa Claus, or do we see a retracement, pulling back off these highs, with the market anticipating a potential Santa Claus trade? And does it really mean anything at the end of the day?
Well, I think it does. I think last year's move was actually, that may well be enough to spook traders this year. Maybe we don't get the Santa Claus rally this year. Maybe the same thing happens this year as it did last year. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with that. But I think it could worry people. I think that the Santa Claus scenario that was really so maligned in a way last year, that might be, and considering we are at these all-time highs on these markets, let's just have a quick look at them, because we do need to use these as barometers. S&P is the S&P. Now I'm going to bring in my my indicator here and just have a look at it I'm not too worried about the price or the pivots right now. This is what I'm looking at here. Now it's getting very close to overbought up here. We're not too far away from overbought, so it's due some sort of retracement, or any little move to the upside will spark some sort of retracement. And we're getting fairly close to December to suggest that this actually could be the case, going into what would be the Santa Claus rally time. Dow Jones has got a little bit more room to maneuver, but not a whole bunch. That's at 63. It's looking, we're only looking at 70 before we get to the overbought condition up there. The Nasdaq is very close as well to overbought up there. And finally, let's just have a quick look at gold and see what we got. Now, gold is moving into this area, which could suggest that a rally may ensue, from this point, because really, from what I can see with gold, I'm just going to bring the price action in here. And if gold starts to rally, that would not necessarily mean weaker stocks, but it doesn't bode too well, when people are going into these protection, to try and buy some protection. This looks to me like a gold breakout and a retest of the breakout area. So there are going to be buyers here, and everybody's been looking for gold to retrace, and it just hasn't happened. And there are going to be buyers down there in that area. Interesting, the FTSE 100 is just about to, we'll come back to the FTSE in a moment. I just want to bring in the gold seasonality as well, and just have a quick look at what that would suggest. So we have gold here, November. Interestingly, that there's a significant dip during November, before we also dip in December, before the Santa Claus rally starts around about midway through the month. So this probably doesn't suggest upside gold, but that would be a bit concerning if gold does actually follow this pattern and move to the upside. That's going to be somewhat concerning, because what's that telling us about the market? And it would suggest that it's telling us it's just a bit out of sync. FTSE 100 has just put in a very interesting 5-minute bar. Now it hasn't really tested the daily pivot yet, but you can't deny that this is a buying bar. It's a huge move to the upside. Not sure again if that's been generated from anything but price, but that looks like a buying opportunity. So maybe that the head and shoulders pattern that I was looking for earlier on doesn't transpire, and actually we just move back into this area and do grab those extra 30 pips. But I've got to sit back, mate. I've got to sit back and just, as I say, recalibrate. Not a bad area for a short-term move to the upside. Probably a buy stop at the high of the bar, and a stop at the lower of the bar would generate around about a 1.5 to 1 trade. So there is something there. There's certainly an opportunity right now that's just come into play. But I'm going to sit on the sidelines and just let this unfold. Just one last thing before I finish on the FTSE. This is the monthly chart, and this I find the most concerning. I've been looking at the monthly chart for potential patterns. The diamond pattern is still in existence, which let me just draw a diamond pattern. Not amazingly done, but let me just draw what I can. It comes down there, it comes down here, it comes up there, and it comes down there. Now this is a bearish pattern, and okay, it may not be there, and it may get swept away. But this, for me, is a pretty concerning sign. We still have a pretty mature bull run in the stock market, and I've got to say, looking for downside. While we have still these tensions that are going on, there's still some tariffs and still trade wars that could potentially be in play. This still seems like it could be a likely scenario for mine. So this is something that I'm still watching out for and I'm waiting for. It doesn't mean it's ready to go yet, or it doesn't even mean it's going to transpire. But I do think that that's a bit of a concerning signal. And when I couple that with what the RSI is telling me, which is this little trend down here, not breaking through this point yet, suggests that that the FTSE could still be in a little bit of trouble. Now, it's not really reacting like some of the other markets. We've got to recognise that that the pound is still in play. We've got to recognise that the pound, yes, does seem to have come off a shade from its highs. It's currently sitting at one. No, not exactly. Not enough. And we've got an election, in around about 6 weeks' time as well. So maybe that's enough to kind of put us on slight hiatus with the FTSE and suggest possibly that we could start to see just a bit of sideways movement, which is going to be a tricky environment. But I'd like to see that develop really first before I make any choices longer term.
Cool.
Now, you obviously you're going to tell me about some markets, mate. But you had some questions. I'm on this site now. What was it you wanted me to look at,
mate? I guess while you're there, we should probably, and I said to the guys yesterday that we'll be also talking about the commitment of traders.
Yeah,
which is, I guess, a new concept to most people who haven't really been introduced to that that idea, if you like. And the idea behind that is that those of the, let's call them big traders, right, who are in the market at the time have to declare their positions.
Yeah.
I actually found that new information to me. I didn't know that was the case. I knew that there was a commitment of traders report, but I didn't realize or recognize that it was a reportable duty of, and I don't know what the cap is. Do we know what the cap is? In terms of
no.
No, I don't know either. Maybe I can research that. But I think we're going to also talk about that when we start to analyze the markets as well. When are we doing that? We're doing that on Tuesdays or every day?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we're probably. I mean, I was thinking we could maybe cover a different currency each day.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And then if there's one that is a lot more important to look at, then we look at that as well. But maybe we do, because I'd like to see euro, I'd like to see pound, I'd like to see Aussie, I'd like to see the gold as well, but also bonds. I'd quite like to sort of like start looking at that. So we've actually got quite a lot to get through.
Yeah.
So we might end up having to do two. FTSE 100 is looking like it might actually come down now and hit that daily pivot. Interesting with a FTSE 100. Again, this is where certain times, and this is the point in having a trading approach. Certain times you'll see me enter the market, but I don't know if you guys were aware of what I said about entering this one. But it was to put a buy stop at the high and a stop at the low, because I wouldn't have just wanted to buy that one. And it's interesting because, and the reason that I would have done that in this scenario is because we still haven't tested this daily pivot. So if I'd seen a similar bar off the daily pivot bounce, that would be a different matter. But this is still a little bit of a fly in the ointment. Until that gets tested, then the trades are just going to be a little bit more difficult. So that's why I'd have stopped an order here and an order here. But considering the last bar, my order would now be cancelled, because I don't want to see it push up and then practically give it almost all back. Fine if it stops here, no big deal. But when it comes all the way back down again, that is telling me the price action is not too crystal clear about the direction right now. And considering the movement that we started in, which is to the downside, I still think there might be some further downside. So that order would now be cancelled.
Mate, could you do me a favour and go back to the previous chart?
Yep, my monthly.
Yep. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'll explain the next thing that you and I are going to develop. You don't know this yet, but you and I are going to develop this as a strategy.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, an entry strategy, basically. No, that wasn't the previous chart. I think it was probably a 5-minute or 15-minute chart. Not sure.
That's the 5. Oh, no, maybe it was the... Oh, it might be the 5. Yeah, was it this one?
I'll tell you when we get there. You're on the monthly at the moment, as far as I can see. Have it changed?
No, okay. Yep.
Okay, there we go. Yep. The previous one.
This one.
You had it just a tick ago. Not that one.
Not this one?
That's the one.
Yeah,
that chart there. Okay, so here's the basis of the strategy, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the range that we've broken with the most recent rally,
yes,
you've got a big bull bar that broke whatever that pivot is. It the weekly pivot, is it? That orange line?
The orange line is the monthly.
It's the monthly pivot, right? So the candle that actually broke last month's monthly pivot. Yep. That one. That's the one we're going to work on.
Okay.
So every time we break a range, be it high or low, if we get a candle like that, we're going to look to trade it short in the first instance.
Yeah.
Underneath the bar.
Yeah.
And then we're going to devise a strategy to also trade it as a continuation of the breakout.
Yeah.
So that's our quest for the next, let's say, 3 months, until we actually refine this into a trading strategy that we can trust.
Oh, mate, do you know what? You've hit on something so brilliant, and this is really interesting what you've just said, because all of a sudden everybody can start to kind of like think about a price point that they are entering on. And just correct me if I'm wrong, but what Jeff's saying is that because this is the breakout, this is the real breakout of the range here. And I love this observation. I think it's absolutely brilliant. This is the breakout of the range. This is the real one. And when price starts to move up from there, what Jeff is basically saying is that this area, now, it could be here, but this area could provide some support, because we've actually seen, from the breakout, it was almost like a gap and go, if you like, or a break and go.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's missed a go wants to try and get in on the top of the breakout bar. And when we put a line where the breakout bar, look what happened. Bounce, bounce, gone. So I really like that, mate.
Yeah,
I really like that.
That's our quest. And again, I've already traded this a couple of times with good effect. And I'm really looking forward to developing it as pretty much an OCO. So we're looking to trade both long and short. What the real conundrum is right now is, where is the long? Now, if it's at the top of the bar, I think that's extremely risky.
Yeah.
But I think there's a sweet spot there somewhere where we can actually judge. And I don't know how many pips this is at the moment. I think we can actually judge that if the continuation is to happen, then we can find a sweet spot entry above that. I'll go through it on my charts in a minute.
Yes.
As to what I'm looking for. So when you're finished, I'll
Yeah,
continue.
no, I'm done here, mate. I'm done here. So really, just for everybody, I'm expecting a little bit of drifty price action here. I'm not really expecting anything that's going to give me a nice clear trade that's going to give us a decent breakout at this particular stage. Just a quick run of the news. We had yesterday. We had President Lagarde speaking for the first time.
Look, that's going to be part of my analysis, actually, and I'm pissed off. I'm really disappointed. I expected the euro to actually rally with whatever she had to say, frankly, because I thought she was going to change everything, but the market thought not at this point.
Do you know, mate, she eased into it. I don't know if you heard the speech, but she's really eased herself. Yeah, she's not provided much commitment from yesterday. You know, she's doing the right thing. She's just she is just looking. Yes, Chandra is the trading the momentum, the breakout trade. You're absolutely right. Yeah, she's just looking to kind of like get her feet under the table, I think, right now. I don't think we were ever. She's quite measured, isn't she, Lagarde? And I don't think we were ever going to get her coming out and saying, telling us everything that she's going to do. She does look to be a completely different animal than Mario Draghi, so it looks like we will get a different approach. But it was a very easy speech yesterday. I don't think it really. Yes, it had, and I know what you mean, because it had the potential, as they always do, to do something, had the potential to be a bit of a market mover. But she was very non-committal. There wasn't any meat on the bones yesterday at all. I think the euro will ultimately like
very measured,
Christine
I'm
Lagarde.
sure. Yeah,
very measured, exactly. Just going down today, Caixin Services PMI data from China, again a miss, and a miss from the previous month as well. Just bringing in the chart on this is drifting constantly to the downside, mate. Again, you've got to say service PMI from China. Okay, it's not such a huge deal as manufacturing, but it's still showing signs of weakness. We're not really seeing a pickup in the numbers in China. So the trade wars and the global numbers are still under stress. Now, people are very confident about the US market, and if they're going to put their money anywhere, they're going to put it in the US market. I don't think the FTSE 100 quite meets the same criteria. And I have to say, if the US market all of a sudden does start to come to the down, start to move to the downside, I think the FTSE could absolutely bomb. I think it's the US seems to be hanging on in there while everybody else is struggling. Which is quite amazing, and it's probably allowing the worldwide markets just about to stay, fairly well afloat and in somewhat of a bull move. But I don't see the bull run continuing. I think that there's a bit more weakness to come from this market. The FTSE 100 monthly chart is problematic. The services number from China look like they are weakening. Aussie also left their cash rate on hold, 0.75% interest rates, not particularly conducive to suggest that we're having a great deal of growth either. Spanish unemployment change has been out. Yes, it's a yellow number, but look at the miss. I mean, it is huge. 62%, 62K they were looking for. Previous at 13K, 97, almost 100,000. 100,000 change in jobs numbers in Spain. And again, look at where it is in comparison to where we've been. These numbers are higher than we've seen since 2014.
Mate, do you think that's? I shouldn't be so controversial, should I? Are they cheating? Are they a bit like the Fed? Not the Fed, the NFP figures, where the government has a little bit of a look at them first and says, well, this is really the best number that we want, or this is not the good number. we might just fiddle that a bit, shall we?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's quite possible, isn't it? That the thing is, I would suspect that with everybody looking at that specific number, they will trade off the back of it, regardless of whether they're filling it or not.
Yes, exactly right.
So yeah, that they I suppose we could kind of go down the conspiracy route, but the problem with that
Well,
is that we're
I
going to
will.
we could get caught on the hop though, couldn't we? Because if we go down that particular route and the numbers are real, then we'll be sort of like waiting for them to go in the opposite direction, and it might never materialize. So
well, let's actually turn the clock back and talk about the NFP number on Friday.
yeah,
It was a little bit better than anticipated. Obviously,
yes,
well below par, but shithouse numbers that came out with it. The wages were down, and the unemployment rate was up as anticipated. So that's not good for the dollar.
average earnings, we had. I mean, yeah, they weren't great numbers, mate, but they weren't too bad. I mean, when we look at the average earnings, they were looking for a gain of 0.3%. They got a gain of 0.2%. Previous numbers to that was zero. So that they're not though the average earnings aren't too bad. They're fairly solid. I think we could argue. You're right. Non-farm payrolls came out and they were a beat from what the estimates were, but they were actually a drift from the previous numbers as well.
And well below
and again,
par.
and below par. You look at this chart, and it is coming down. So I think there is some strain coming on. Unemployment rate at 3.6%. The previous was 3.5%. So a little tick up in some of the unemployment numbers as well. Not too much. But again, looking at that chart, look at that. I mean, the unemployment numbers have been significantly falling.
Yes.
And I suppose when we consider this has to be at a point where we're starting to go, unemployment is practically, they've almost hit their
full employment
mandate at this point. And this is a very difficult time for the Fed, I think. You're looking at this, you have to say the only way is up from here for unemployment numbers. Let me just go back to see. So we haven't even been this low. 2007 wasn't this low. This only goes back, by the looks of things, to 2004. We've never been this low historically for unemployment numbers, but because of that, there's got to be a suggestion that they're much more likely to start ticking up from here than continuing their trend to the downside. They'll either tick up or they'll freeze, won't they?
So Donald's drained the swamp and he's created jobs.
He's created jobs, yeah. ISM manufacturing is the number I think that you were referring to earlier, 48.3, which was a bit of a miss, but it was actually a better number than prior. And again, looking at the chart, yeah, it's pretty ugly. You're right, actually. Yeah, that is pretty ugly, isn't it? Yeah,
anyway, that's going on. That's ticking along in the background. As is, there's always something, isn't there, that we need to just have a little look at.
Yes. Well, we had Clarida out as well. I only bring him up because I think he's probably the most significant of these speakers. But the FOMC member Clarida, Qualis, and Williams all spoke on Friday, and I wonder whether what they said might have had a significant part in the moves in the S&P and the Dow as well. So it's possible. Let me just see what time this moved. That would be. No, it was before that. Looks like it was before that, but they certainly. Sorry, I'm on the wrong day. No, this is Friday, isn't it? Yeah, they did. They certainly didn't. They certainly didn't douse the douse flames on the move. So it doesn't look too bad right now out there, mate. I have to say, FTSE 100 has managed to grab to the upside, and if you still like this move back along, then I don't see it being awful, but I just don't see any clarity in these charts right now.
All right, so let's take the approach that we're neutral based on fundamentals at the moment.
Yes, I think so.
I think that's fair as well. Okay, should we have a look at some currency charts?
Let's do that. Let's do that. Now, the other thing is about being neutral, just very, very briefly, is coming back from Bali and traveling for pretty much 24 hours puts me in a situation where I think, what's the responsible thing to do with my head? And it is really just to give it some time, just to kind of recalibrate.
A bit of cosmetic surgery won't hurt, mate.
Yeah. In my case, you're absolutely right. So, okay. So yeah, let's see what you got.
Okay. If I kick you out, just come in on the same link. That's what I did.
No problem. No problem. Now I have a currency strength matrix, sorry, for the week starting this week, mate. So I can fill you in on that
as I go through.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Let me see if I can pick the right chart to share with you. That one will do. This is my favorite currency pair of the week, and it is euro pound. The issue I have is that I wanted it to start as of yesterday or overnight, when I really thought we were at a great place to catch a Christine Lagarde positive statement, and really didn't see that. So I'm a bull euro pound. Interesting chart that I'm looking at here, in that we've come back into the range off a big triple top, and that's anything but bullish, I've got to say. But right now I'm thinking, okay, we've had that big move down. We've erased what was a very, very, very sustained, well, we haven't quite erased it, but it was a very, very sustained, as you can see, all these white bars here. There was not a black one amongst them, apart from that little doji bar sitting in there. Unbelievable rally that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 weeks. So 3 months of absolute smashing it, euro against the pound. Am I committed to that recurring? Look, I don't say that, but and a lot will depend, of course, on how long have we got to go on Brexit? I don't know, 6 weeks or some bloody thing. But anyway, the short term, I've got to be a euro pound bull, because I think the market will respect, and I don't know when she next speaks or when she's going to make a move, but I think it will be positive for the euro no matter what and when. The issue that I have, of course, we're now on a weekly chart, and look what we're getting. We're getting doji, doji, doji. If you have a look at that on a 4-hour chart, it looks even more ridiculous. The cool part about that is when we're trading in a range that we have extremely defined, like this one is, I'm looking to trade that top to bottom, bottom to top all the time. So all I need to do is isolate where the top and the bottom is. That's the difficult project I have at the moment. How tight do I squeeze that in? Do I, use the all time in this range, highs and lows, or do I squeeze that in to take in what is more relevant to me? And that is, I guess, the area that I'm seeking to exploit. So I'm going to put my lows in here, and I'm going to put my highs in about there somewhere. So I'm looking to trade top to bottom here. The issue I have, of course, at the moment is we're not at the top, we're not at the bottom, so that makes it difficult. But every time I see this go to the top, I'll be looking to trade it to the bottom, and vice versa. This is very much my theme most times, but it's even more so at the moment, because the market really, on a lot of the currency pairs that I do trade, is doing exactly that, going exactly sideways. So I'm very, very focused on euro pound. I love where it is at the moment. I love the fact that we've got an untested monthly pivot, and we're only 5 days into the month. So if I can find a way to trade this from the bottom here, I will definitely leave something open and trade it up to this level. Can't see a way in right now. As I said, we're midstream and we're absolutely in the middle of that range. So it's a no trade or no go zone at the moment. But boy, will I be watching this very, very closely to trade it off the top and the bottom. It will be exactly the same on all the pairs that I'm looking to trade. Just hang on 2 secs, guys. And I'll start with, I'll go to the euro, because that's my go-to currency. It always has been, always will be, because it is the most traded currency pair. I like the ha-ha, Lewis, euro pound. I'm not sure what the ha-ha is all about, but anyway. And Chandru, I will develop a strategy thing. Mate, you've already done that. All you've got to do is just keep developing that one that you've got in your pocket. I think it's fantastic, and continue to do that, but more than willing to have your help on this one as well. So euro dollar, let's take a look at euro dollar. As you can see, double bottom, or I won't call it that, I'll call it equal lows, and I'll call it equal highs. That's the start of our range for mine. We've come off the top again. What I'm looking for here is to trade to the bottom of that, of course. And how do I do that? Well, I'll wait until I've got a clear lower high sitting here, and then I'll look to trade it to the bottom of the range. That, of course, is not the case at the moment. I wouldn't look to trade that candle, for instance. What I really like to see in these conditions is something that is clear. And at the moment, it is not clear. So clear to me is a rally, if you like. So we've had double top, we've had a lower high, sorry, a lower low. What I'm looking for is a lower high. That tells me that this double top and the top of this range is absolutely cemented in. So
yeah, I like that.
What I'm looking for is this to roll over here and give me, if I saw that sitting here, then I start to get interested. We've got a soft resistance level through here. And I think that's the area I would be looking to trade this short. I won't trade it short from here because to mine, this is not a clear statement by the buyers. And the whole precedent here is that if the buyers can't drive this to at least the equal highs or even higher, then guess what? The sellers are going to take advantage of that and drive this down to here. That's the whole premise of the trade. So what I'm looking for is price to actually attempt to go long and fail. That's what this lower high situation is all about. And it's exactly the same coming the other way. Double bottom, higher low. Would you trade that? No, not in a fit, because the candle's way too big. But this is exactly the premise, and it's always going to be the same. If we're coming off the bottom, I'm looking for a higher low. If we're coming off the top, I'm looking for a lower high, because what it does do, it confirms to me that these guys are in control. Okay, so that's going to be the theme for the week for me, and every chart I look at the moment is telling me exactly the same. So let's go to
mate. Yeah, the
mate.
seasonality on this one is actually showing a bit of downside bias as well.
Okay, awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. If you've got those to bring in, that's perfect. So if the seasonality is saying short, that doesn't mean we just jump in short here, guys, because the seasonality is very much a, let's say, cloud. It's not a clarity thing that says, all right, on this day you have to go short.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you just maybe for a bit of extra confidence, but mate, I have to say, not only is it's showing some downside, I've just actually brought up the chart. It's incredibly bearish into the middle of November.
Yeah, look, this has been the case, Ash, for some time. I think it goes back to, let me think, mid-October, where, to my mind, and I don't look at seasonality, I've got to say, but when I do look at those charts that suggest there's something about to happen, if not happen, that's all I saw. All I saw was a bearish signal on the euro. Haven't really seen that play out yet, and I guess, you know, in many respects that pumps you up, because if it is to happen, then we're in a pretty strong position for that to take place anytime soon. So yeah, I'm more than happy for that to be the case. And my attitude towards that will be, if I can find the reason to get in short, then it's a pretty simple equation. We trade to there and take profit, but leave something open. If the seasonality does kick in, then away we go. Happy days. We kick a big goal. So that's the whole premise of what I'm trying to do here. You know,
it looks like the worst time of year for the euro, actually. You know, looking at this chart, it looks like an awful time of year that maybe January, February kind of equal it, but this is poor. This is a really bad time of year for the euro according to seasonality.
Yes, that doesn't help my euro pound trade, I've got to say, but you know, relative strength is a completely different thing to euro versus the dollar, which is what I'm looking at.
You're absolutely right. The euro is actually showing on the heat map. I guess it's showing that it's fairly neutral coming into the week. So it might not even be quite the right time. Seasonality on the pound is also fairly weak in November, so it doesn't bode too badly for
Yeah,
your
exactly what I'm saying.
yeah.
If both of them are going a race to the bottom, then it then comes down to relative strength, and I'm more than happy to trade euro pound long under those circumstances. But what
Yeah.
you're saying, if we're neutral at the moment, then that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for, is to trade it inside a range. So I'm more than happy with that.
Yes, and just looking at the COT data, that's kind of suggesting the same kind of thing with the euro as well, that we are fairly neutral, where buyers and sellers look like they're in fairly close tango at this stage, to kind of bring a bit of a dance analogy into play.
Like it. Cable itself is in exactly the same position as the euro, in that we've come off the top here. Look, I really like this for a short. It's a great short setup, and I'll show you this on pound yen in a minute. The trade that, in fact, the very last trade of the Bali trading retreat for my from my memory. This really does look like a potential short area for me, and I'm not sure what I need to see here right now, because what I was just said with the pardon me, clear higher low hasn't occurred here. But this area here is extremely interesting, because we've had a double test, if you like, test of the daily pivot, test of the weekly pivot. I know a lot of strategies will be clambering over this at the moment to get short. Again, it's not clear to me, because what I like to see, repeating myself, is exactly this, right? Come down, try to take out the highs, fail to do that, and then bang, lose it. Same up here, double top. We've had a sell-off. The attempt to take out the highs has been very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Feeble. It doesn't exist. This is just a market that's gone sideways and is in consolidation. This is absolutely, I see it. I see the rejection of the pivots, and for all intents and purposes, this could just crash down to the bottom. But that's not what I want to see. I want to see a clear lower high. I want to see price try to drive up here and fail, then give me the lower high, then smash it. That's very, very clear to me. So when I'm trading ranges, it never changes. It's always going to be the same. Get the double bottom, get the triple bottom, as we have here. Wait for that clear lower high. Sorry, higher low in this case, because what's happened, we've rallied, we've come back, and then we go again. So these guys fail to drive price beyond or even to equal those lows. That's the key I'm looking for. Entry there, not a lot of profit available to us, but that's where you stop trading. You take your profit here and make it safe. And if it goes through, happy days. You've still got something left in the market. But that's the whole premise of this range trading that I do all the time. It's what I do, basically. So that's what I'm looking for on cable. Now, the Aussie is more than interesting. And the reason the Aussie is more than interesting, and I said to the guys in the show this morning, have we actually hit that trade line or have we not? And it depends really on which time frame you look at. Looking at the weekly charts as to whether we have actually hit that resistance level. That's changed, of course, because I've changed time frames. But on the weekly chart, we have, we're actually at that resistance level, which gives me an entirely different bias than if I look at the daily chart, which tells me that we haven't. Because I absolutely need to see that happen before I start to get bearish. Whether I need to adjust that right now is another question. Let's have a look at that. Yes, I do. So that trade line or trend line, whatever you want to call it, is still valid where it is, and we haven't hit it, or have we? How close is close enough? And that becomes the question. For mine, I need to see it hit that level, and I would really like to see it break that level before I look to trade this short. Do I really want to trade this short is the second question that I ask myself. We've come off a strong base. We saw this base happen, and we were looking for what? A higher low. We got the higher low and we go into trend. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, break the resistance level, and now we've gone into consolidation. There's nothing new there. So to actually trade this in any direction, I need to see a resistance level hit or broken, one or the other. All we've got right now is consolidation. If I break this down and go into a 4-hour chart, for instance, here's what I see. And those of you who know how I trade will know that I call that a range. Yes, it's offset. It's the beginning of a descending channel. So what am I looking to do here? Well, it's once again very, very clear to me what I need to do. I'm at the top of a range, what I call a range. I need to look for a false break of that range. And if I get that false break, I'm then looking for a lower high once we come back in it. And then I trade it to the short side. Get to the bottom, look to turn around and trade it to the high side. So this is going to be exactly the same scenario until that range breaks. Now the breakout, which is where I'm extremely focused at the moment. This is the premise of the range. We've got to come up with a name for this, Ash. Not just a strategy. We've got to come up with a name for it.
For
the instant smash or instant crash or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think we saw it on the Aussie yesterday, if I remember correctly. Let me see. I'll go to the hourly chart. I think we saw it. Yeah, we did. There it is, right? So we've got a tight little range in here yesterday. We've got a tight little range in here, right? Let's go to the 30. It's probably more pronounced. Here's the 30-minute chart. So we've got a little range in here, and this is going to be very much a case in point because Asia session is a great ranging session traditionally, you know, and it breaks, of course, at some stage. And what we're looking to do is when that range breaks, this range in here, if it breaks to the high side, what we're looking to do, and here's the challenge, guys, we're looking to trade in the opposite direction of the breakout in the first instance and use the candle that breaks the range. So in other words, what we're looking to do is trade short underneath that bar, right? That's the first trade. Anyone who's ever played the slingshot with me knows that I love to trade false breakouts. This is a classic example of this. So what we see is with the slingshot trading method, we wait for the break, we wait for the consolidation, we wait for it to come back inside or underneath the broken trade line. Then we wait for the retest and we trade underneath the retest. So the entry here, not that this is a great one because it's a wrong size candle, but the entry here would have been at that level. So we've missed the entry if we trade that bar. Here's the thing. We had to wait, what's this, a 30-minute? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours before we got the entry. However, if we trade what is the new method and we trade this bar here, we had to wait the same amount of time to get triggered, but we could have walked away and gone and played a round of golf whilst we were waiting for that to trigger. The entry is there already. We don't have to wait for the setup. The other cool thing is we would have missed this move because we didn't get the candle that we wanted. And that has been a bugbear in this strategy of mine trading false breaks for the longest time. I couldn't be more excited about this, guys, really. And, you know, I'm not trying to sell anything here. What I'm trying to explain to you is where I had to wait 6 or 7 hours prior and then miss the entry entirely because I didn't get the candle that I wanted. I've now got the opportunity to trade false breaks off a beautiful breakout bar. This couldn't be happy. I couldn't be happier with this. This is awesome. So this is the strategy that I need to develop. And I can see that clear. There's no issue with trading it back that way as the false break. The issue becomes, what if it isn't a false break and it's actually a break? That's where I need to concentrate. How do I get into this move as an OCO? Now, here's the trap, and here's what I see as being the real trap. If we then go into consolidation, I think we need to just forget about the breakout and concentrate on the break back, if you like. I'm going to call this the burglar trade. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this one. Maybe it's the burglar short, the convict long, because the convict's trying to break out and the burglar's trying to break in, right? I've always said that. The challenge is, when do we give up on the long, and where do we put our entry on the long? So if we were to put an entry above that bar and hang on and hang on and hang on and hang on, we would have got tripped in and then smashed out. That's what we're trying to avoid with this new strategy. So Ash, that's our challenge. I've already got the short sorted. I've already got the long sorted if we go in the opposite direction, of course. But
Nice.
what I need to sort is the continuation. But I'm loving this. This is the one big takeaway from me from barley. Um, I can save myself at least 5 candles and maybe 6 or 7 hours. I can just walk away from the chart, set that trade, and away we go. And in this instance, we would have got, say we put our stop above an obvious level, let's say 11 pips, down to another obvious level, 35. There's a 3-to-1 trade without even trying. Love it.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Very good, mate. Very good. Well, we're seeing the FTSE 100 also push to the upside, and it looks like the bullish run, certainly in the early stretch, is going to continue. I haven't got question on the chart. So after Lewis said the euro pound, that's when Chandru said which one. I don't know what we were talking about. I think we were talking about the strength. I was saying that the euro is neutral. The pound actually is very, very strong at the minute for this week. But that's great, mate. It's really good that you've managed to kind of come away with something fresh as well. You know, it looks like not just an addition to what you were doing, but almost something not completely new, but it looks fairly new.
Yeah, look, let me put it this way, Ash. It's something I've always traded because I'm a massive fan of false breaks. Well, let's face it, most breaks are false.
Yes.
So all we need to do to recognize that is see something through somebody else's eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to do that, and how fortunate are we to be, in the ATW camp, because we get to go to Bali and experiences all of these things every year, and every year I come away with something different that improves my own trading. This is absolutely marvelous for me, because it puts a tick under what I've been trading all the time, but it gives me a far better chance of actually getting into the market than was the case before. So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because actually when that was kind of Julian talking about that, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember watching it and thinking that you were going to be all over it.
No,
and,
I am. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. So what I was saying was extremely bearish was the seasonality in the euro. It's not particularly positive for the pound either, but the seasonality going into the start of November is very, very bearish for the euro. So that was the extremely bearish comment, which would suggest that we would see some downsides into the first few weeks of the month.
So, mate, I haven't got a trade, have you, at the moment?
No, I mean, there is a trade in the FTSE long that on maybe another circumstance I would have taken it. But as I said, I'm going to get my head straight this week. I don't need to trade this week. I've got profit in the back pocket already, and I'm going to.
Mate, there's bank managers trying to sign you up after the last.
Yeah. So for that reason, I've got to take those calls, and I haven't got time to trade. So. I'm gonna sit it out this week. But yeah, there's a long in the market for sure. I think probably would have wanted to get the entry off the inverted head and shoulders on a 5-minute chart just to quickly show everybody that.
Mate, I'm definitely not out of the market this week. I can see massive opportunities for me trading ranges.
Yeah.
So and even the breakouts, guys. If we see the breakouts, chances are they're going to be false. And if we get that big bullish bar breaking the top, then just monitor that. No need to trade it. Just watch what it does. And if we can come back into here, happy days. Same to the downside. If we break short with a big decisive bar, look at the entry above that. And I think you'll be very, very happy if you follow that for a period of time. But I'm certainly looking to trade inside the ranges this week, and there's tons of them. So I'm more than happy.
That's really good, mate. And when it comes down for me, it's not a long to go short scenario, but I am actually looking for a short in the FTSE in around about 60 pips time. So I want another 40 to 60 pip push to the upside, but I'm going to look for the short off the back of that as well. So maybe that's another reason that I'm not too keen on the long. I need a catalyst to bring it down, but I think it's going to rear its head, mate. I think everybody's got a little bit too excited. I was just looking at the sentiment cycle as well, and I want to take the screen, but my problem is if I take it, you might get kicked out.
I'm out of here.
Are you done? Are you?
No. If you do, FTSE chart. I can bring up the chart. There you go. Which one do you want?
Well, the FTSE 100. Let's have a look at the dailies.
That's the daily. Yep.
That's the daily. So I think there's a little bit more of a push to the upside from this particular zone. Now, in my opinion, we are kind of getting towards that D kind of area where confidence does return to the market, and it goes for a little bit of a period of sideways price action, where we kind of consolidate and then maybe have one more burst to the upside of enthusiasm. But after that, which is not too far away from this particular point, in my opinion. But after that, I can see a fairly decent move back again. So I think there's a little bit more to grab out of this market, mate. I think there's a little bit more of a bull run coming, but it's going to be short term, in my opinion. And
okay, so do we trade through the shoulder?
No, that's where I'd be looking for the short, to be honest.
So here.
Oh, trade through the shoulder. Yeah, that's where. Yeah, if you draw that, if you could draw that line for me.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, it's not necessarily where I'd look for a short initially, but I have to say initially I'd like to see what happens to price there, because it's possible that I can see us actually breaking that shoulder line.
See you, Lewis. Thanks for being here, mate.
Thanks, Lewis. I can see us breaking that shoulder line.
Okay.
And but not being particularly bullish. Hey, Alexis, we got a team in today, mate.
Lexi, what's that bum thing you've got there?
Oh, everybody's got one of those.
There's nothing new
there. Yeah, I can see us breaking that, mate. I can see us breaking it and pushing a little bit higher. But after that, I think that we've got some pressure to come.
Take the pressure down. All right.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be under pressure. If we could play song, I would play Queen and David Bowie.
Yeah, not allowed to do that anymore.
No.
Oh, you might as well. Paul hasn't had an email for a while. I didn't mention pound yen, guys, and I said this to the guys this morning. This was very much, I think it was the last trade in the Bali Retreat 2019, and I managed this this morning. We took TP1 around about this area here. Since that point, look what happened. This is a 4-hour chart I'm looking at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, potentially 16 4-hour candles in the one spot. So here's what I did. After I've taken TP1, we still had 2/3 of the trade in the market. I took TP2 at +3 pips, would you believe, which made us, well, not completely safe, but I moved my stop loss from where it was up here down to here and made us completely safe. So I just didn't want to be a part of this anymore. So this is finished up. I'm now out of that trade. This is finished up as a very, very small win. Let's call it a break-even trade at the end of the day. But yeah, very disappointing to go into this range. I don't want to be part of that. That could go anywhere from here. It's no longer a position that I want to be in. If you have a look at the daily and the weekly pivot, they just are inseparable at the moment. And that's telling me everything I need to know. this will smash out of here. There's no question. This is like a big coiled spring going tighter and tighter and tighter. It'll smash out of here, but it now becomes a toss of a coin. So I don't want to be in it anymore. Sadly, because I did think this was a pretty good setup to go short, and it looked as though it was going to get away from us or away with us. But look at that. That's just
interesting, mate. Do you know what I find quite interesting about this is that obviously if there is some pressure coming in fairly soon, we're likely to see some strength in the yen and the pound.
Yeah, look, that's what I was playing, and apart from the chart, it was there. But yeah,
I get it, and you know, but the pound is. I think the pound's actually going to be almost worse to trade, in this period than it has been through Brexit. You know, we got this parliamentary.
And there's a challenge for you.
Yeah, but is it going to move much? I mean, I wouldn't have thought so, and unless there's potential for a Jeremy Corbyn win, which doesn't seem to be the case at the minute. I can't see the pound moving out of a range for the next 6 weeks.
Well, clear evidence is in that chart, and then you look at euro pound. You know,
yeah,
it's exactly the same. So the market's not willing to make a call on this right now. And if the market's not, then good luck with that.
And isn't it interesting? You know, we always say that when you kind of get these ranges, that pressure's building, and when the move comes, it will come hard and fast. But when we look under the hood, and I'd say this is probably the same for all of it, but when we look under the hood, certainly for this one, the reason it goes into a range is of the uncertainty. We've got an election coming up, and it's only 6 weeks away. And there's every chance that this just stays within that point until the election. And of course, then we get certainty because we get some kind of idea of which direction the UK market goes in. And then we start to move hard. So this is kind of interesting. It's almost one of those ones that you'd want to play off the top and the bottom. And if you could stay in both.
Well, I don't know about almost. It's absolutely what
it's the only way, is it? Yeah. So the only way to play it is get right at the top, right at the bottom, put a stop loss on both of them, and hope that by the time that election's due, price is in the middle of the points and it breaks through one of the ways and takes out the other one's stop loss. That would be a fantastic trade if you can get it.
Are we in there trying, bud?
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. Keep us informed. I honestly think you're gonna have to hold this one though. If you get,
I agree.
If we pop up in the next week, I don't think you're gonna be able to get out of the that one for another 6 weeks potentially.
Well, mate, with any luck, we'll break to the downside with the bullish, with a bearish decisive bar, and we can place that entry above it, like we've just been describing, and away we go.
Yeah.
We shall see. I'm done, mate. How about you?
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. I think it was a longer show than normal today. We've gone well over the hour, which is unusual for us. But there's so much to talk about. You know, there's so much to do, isn't there now? And I'm going to get my head into a little bit more of the COT reports. I'm going to do a little bit more on the fundamentals. And I don't think we're going to be able to shut each other up, mate.
Well, that's pretty typical of you. Yeah, it's all true. But look, as long as it means something, mate, it doesn't matter. We can talk bullshit all day, but if we find something that means something and we can make some money out of it, then all good.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay, all right. Well, enjoy tomorrow. Sorry, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will speak to you tomorrow. And the rest of you, enjoy the rest of your evening too. The time has got changed potentially. We're on UK daylight saving time, so it might have changed the charts a little bit. You are more than welcome, Seal. We will see you tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel.
What time's that, mate?
It's going to be 5 to 8.
5 to 8. Awesome. Don't be late. It's a date. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye, Shandru. Bye, Seal. Thank you. Catch you later, guys.